Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission is one of the amazing author experts of a new book that we have coming out. This one is called Mindset Mastery: Awareness, Meditation, Mindfulness, and Manifestation for the Spiritual Warrior. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciate all you do for us authors trying to get our messages out to the world. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for those kind words. You guys, Frank Byrum is a writer, author, scientist, and technologist, and believes everyone can tap into deeper intuition to weather life's storms. And first of all, Frank, thank you so much for being willing to share your story in this book and for the master teachings that you're sharing here too. This book is full of awareness practices, you guys, like Frank's, that are going to transform people's lives. I'm so excited about this book. Would you share a little bit about your chapter with us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It opens up with a personal story of just an event that occurred. And I went back to my office desk and I felt like I was carrying a boulder. In fact, it was actually sitting in my lap so big I couldn't reach my keyboard. And that boulder was an emotional boulder. And I think we all carry them at some points in our lives. The storm comes and you got to reach around the boulder, you got to carry the boulder, you got to shoulder the boulder. And the question is not how to keep them from coming, because they do come. That part you can't fix. What you can do is say, how am I going to respond? And from my point of view, or from what I try to help people understand, is that awareness that you're in that moment, that what you're doing is human and normal, and it is life, and how your daily practice sits that space to navigate those times in your life, and they absolutely will come. And the boulder was a really annoying thing because I knew it was happening. Right, it was related to a job. I knew it was coming. That boulder had been growing for a long time, and at some point it just became so big. I'm like, okay, time to do something different. But I think we all have those, be it a job or a relationship or a family member or whatever. They come in lives, and a sickness, all these things. And I think we can navigate them in a way that is productive, a way that doesn't keep us in the pit of depression and anxiety. And that daily practice, that awareness of what's going on, that daily practice just a key to that. And you do the daily practice for a simple reason. Um, I do it on the good days so that I can really perform on the bad days, on the hard days, right? So I can weather the hard days. And so the practice is absolutely that. It's doing it continually, getting it into your cycle of daily things, and it pays off on those hard days. So that's kind of the general sense of the book, and my story in the book, and it talks about that part of my life, that particular story.
So I'm a fan of talking about that daily practice. And I often ask you guys to give us little windows into your day. If I were to be peeking at you in practice, what are some of the things I would be seeing you do?
I have a daily practice, and I have a it later practice, if that makes sense to some extent. So here's the daily practice. I'm up in the morning early. No one's up. It's really quiet. I have a journal. I have something wisdom teaching, and I have a cup of tea. The cup of tea is the first part of mindfulness for me. You smell it, you feel it, you breathe it in, you feel the heat, you feel it on your tongue, you taste it, and it's the cue that I've learned or I've taught myself to begin my practice. That's how my practice begins. Now, the reason that the secret tip, if you want one, the reason I do that is later in my day when it's not going well, or it's a struggle, or even sometimes if it's just great, I go and get a cup of tea. I always carry a tea bag with me and a cup of tea. And that reminds me to be mindful in that moment because I've practiced it so many times, and to take a minute and smell the tea and taste the tea, take a couple of deep breaths, and it recenters me later in the day And it's one of the cues that I give myself and know to go to when I'm even almost celebrating something and happy, or when I'm having a tough time. And that cue brings me back to that moment, because midday, it's hard to do a 30-minute practice, right? But I can do a 2-minute practice and just break what's going on, go get that cup of tea, remind myself to center. And that midday practice works because I'm doing that first day, that early morning practice every day. I mean, I've done it every day for now decades, really. Um, the wisdom teachings, those change over time. The journaling and some of those types of things change as the seasons of life change. But that tea and that meditation, that breathing, that has not changed, and it has truly served me well. So,
I love, I'm listening to you talk about the tea and thinking of, I want you to know my tea moments are different because of you. Love my cup of tea. And I love actually creating that. First thing in the morning, sorry, Frank, I'm a coffee gal, but then midday, it's about the tea. But I use the same practice even with my cup of coffee, which is really the thing, is embodying the moment, you
yeah,
know?
it's I think the hard part, the awareness piece, which is really what this chapter is about,
Yeah.
is the closer I can get to the awareness of where I am, and own that feeling that's coming to. What am I really feeling? What's really going on inside of me right now that's really causing me anxiety or struggle, or even happiness to some extent? It's the full gambit. The closer I can get to knowing that a feeling's going on, the more aware I can be, and the more I can be in the moment, or make a change, or make a different step. It's when I don't do that that I fall into my loop. I fall into my habit. I fall into that sometimes it's anxiety or that worry or that brain loop. And really, when I fall in that brain loop, it's tough to get out. You get in there, it's a carnival. It goes around and around and around. The awareness lets me bring that back. And for me, the nice part about tea, coffee works. Your soda, it really doesn't matter what it is to some extent, but because it's tangible, touchable, it has a sensation, and as you drink it and sip it and smell it, is it brings all your senses back at one moment, and you train yourself that that's what you're doing. You're just bringing the senses back to that moment, and that sort of gives me just a quick stop, right? Just a break, and like, oh yeah, I'm feeling this, and that's really what goes on in all this.
So this is so perfect. And awareness is everything. I'm such a mindset geek as well. You know, to me, it's what makes the difference between a mediocre life and an amazing one, this thing you're talking about. And what does being a mindset master mean to you?
I don't think it means uh, uh, the sort of maybe what it sounds like to some extent. I mean, it sounds big and great and grand and all these kinds of things. That's really so it sounds unreachable or untouchable. It's really not. If you look at I practice martial arts. You look at the grand martial artist. Really, what's occurring is they're doing their daily practice the same way. I mean, there's a great story that I really love about the local humble martial artist, and the promoter comes in and promotes all these great people who are going to come in and do this great show, and the humble artist wins. He wins the tournament, and everybody's shocked. And when he's given the trophy, he says, "Well, I'm just doing my daily practice. I didn't do anything special." And that's really it. It sounds unapproachable and tough and hard, but it's really the simple stuff, and it's getting back to the simple stuff, and that's the real key to some extent.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
and I think that's the I've tried all sorts of stuff, and I do read many books about it and whatnot, but the simple stuff is really what served me the longest and has stuck with me the longest. So that's what it means to me. It's the
Yeah.
simple.
I love it. I love that explanation. I hear you. And you know that I am a fellow martial artist, so I totally understand what you're saying about that piece. That really is it. I have created a discipline out of my practices. And when it moves to, not everyone kind of thinks that discipline word is a bit harsh, but for me, it's exactly about what you just said. Um,
Uh, And that that wax and wanes, right, to some
Mm,
extent. The
right.
great thing I think my grandmaster taught me over decades, and it took like a decade to learn it, is I didn't need 100 tools or 100 techniques. I need a few well-practiced techniques. Something done 10 times is nowhere near as effective as something done 10,000 times. And if you're doing that mindful practice every day, 365 days a year, plus a few times during the day, you're ticking off 1,000 times a year, easy. And that is what grains that practice and makes it easy. It's easy to go into it. It's easy to come out of it. It feels like a comfortable, warm blanket sometimes. It's that nice blanket and pillow on a rainy day to some extent. And that's what I think we need in our lives, more of anyway.
So I know that you've had a lot going on aside from writing in this book. Is there anything you want to share with us today about what you have going on in your business and the new year and all that stuff?
Well, as you said in my intro, I'm a scientist and technologist, so I have that part of my life going. This year has been a tough year. My partner's been sick this year, and it's been my storm. This chapter's about storm, because we're caregivers a lot of times, and she almost passed earlier this year, but she's well into recovery now, and so that's important. That's absolutely my number one focus this year. But I'm looking forward to her recovery and getting more back into coaching and teaching and writing this coming year. And for anybody listening, she's doing quite well and responding to the treatment, and that's always a good thing. And I say that so that people understand we write these books and we put things in them, but we also are living this stuff, right? My storm, I'm was living a storm the early part, mostly up until a few months ago, absolutely living it. And it's these we're sharing what we're trying to do to manage our own lives through that storm. And I believe anybody can do this. Like many of the other authors, we're not putting super complex, unattainable techniques in what we're doing, just things that are easy to do. And I think the big thing that we do say is, look, we've been there. We got it. We understand. Certainly in the book, you'll find someone that you're like, wow, that sounds like me. And I think that connection is the big thing, is when you can connect to someone and go, oh wow, and this is how they got through it. And that's where you start building that practice.
Awesome. Yes. Yes, with an exclamation point. You guys, one of the biggest missions I have with every Brave Healer Productions book is to help our readers live extraordinary lives. And no matter where you are on that journey, storm or otherwise, these books are going to help you answer the question, what else is possible? So, Frank, what's that simple stepping stone you'd like to share with our listeners today that will help them on the journey? Like, what's that one thing you want them to know?
I think the thing that I really want people to know is this isn't magic. It feels like it. When you hear people talk about it, it sounds like it. It's absolutely attainable. You can find your awareness in the moment. You can learn to listen to your intuition and that to help you guide to the next step right at that moment in time. It is absolutely achievable to any human being. And I think it doesn't feel that way when you get started, but it absolutely is that way once you get moving in your practice. And so awareness and intuition, you hear a lot of written about it. Um, you got to do the practice. That's what gets you there. But it is absolutely obtainable. And and I hope the listeners of this or those that I'm working with will attain more and more of it. And I'm learning all the time about it. Learning myself, I guess, is really the way to think about it. Know thyself from the Delphi Oracle is still true, even in this current century. So still important.
Thank you for that. Really important. Really important to remember that, you guys. Frank, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with us.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you for what you do and your staff who does the wonderful job of getting us through the crazy project of editing and getting it written well and trying to get our message across. We really appreciate what you're doing and all the other authors and books that you're doing, all worth everybody checking out. So I hope they do. Check out my website to get a chance, themindfulpathway.com. Hopefully to get more back in content on that here soon. And if I can help you, reach out to me.
So you guys, Mindset Mastery is coming out in January of 23. But until then, if something you heard Frank say today made you curious, you have a question, you need some support, scroll on down to the show notes. You'll be able to connect with him there on his website. And all of our authors are very generously there for you to help you take those next steps. So go check out the website, connect. And another way to connect is the Brave Healer Book Club, where our authors and readers are hanging out. So I have that linked up below for you as well. And join us for the book launch party, you guys. It's going to be on January 22nd. And you'll have the Zoom invite and information down below. All of our co-authors of the Mindset Mastery book are going to be there to share their wisdom and inspiration with you. And if you happen to be listening to this interview after those dates, well, hop on over to Amazon and grab your copy of the book. We can't wait to hear how you enjoyed it. And lastly, today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So come on over and visit bravehealer.com. Explore all the ways we help you share your message with the world in a bigger way. See you next time, everyone.
Bye now. Thank you.